Hi, I'm Dana, and I'm not the person that should be making this video, but no one else is. This is a topic that's been on my mind pretty much since I got my diagnosis of being autistic, to be honest. It's one that I've thought about a lot, but I'm not educated. I don't have the education, the background, the knowledge to really be able to make a well-researched, well-planned, well-thought-out video about this topic. This, more so than any of my other videos, which is what they all are, is very much, I reckon, here's what I think, here's my thoughts and opinions and what I have considered, but I have literally nothing to back it up. I was going to say very little. I have nothing to back it up. I am in no way saying that I am right. I am in no way saying this is how it is. This is just something that's been on my mind for a very long time and that I want to talk about, and I'd like to see more discussion around, and that I think is quite important. You know, I'd appreciate if you listen to me, but do take it all with a pinch of salt. I'm not an expert. This is very much, I reckon. I haven't mentioned the topic yet, but I want to talk about social class and autism because I think it's a very interesting, very nuanced, very wide topic. And I think that a lot of people probably haven't thought about it or considered it. And I've thought about it a lot, and I see it a lot, and I think about it all a lot. And it's on my mind a lot, so I really want to talk about it. But I have tried really hard to research this. I've spent hours and hours Googling everything I can possibly think to Google to try and get any sort of information on this. And all I've been able to find, I'll link it below, is one really good study and multiple other studies talking about that study. But this study's basically determined that if your parents are of a lower socioeconomic status, I believe is the terms they're using, basically if your mum is educated up to A-level standard, you're less likely to be diagnosed with autism as a child. And it's one of those things that I thought, and then it was sort of proven to me in this study where I was like, I think if you're working class, if you're of a lower socioeconomic class, you're less likely to be diagnosed, especially in childhood. Because, you know, in my experience, it's very much the higher the class you are, the more time you have. You know, and I know it's always difficult to talk about class issues and to talk about the way that we're all treated. I know it can be a lot, and I'm not trying to shit on anyone with this, so please don't think that I'm like coming out here to be like, I'm working class and life's so hard, it's if only I was middle class, you know, like it's just the way the world works, I get it. But I think it's interesting because I do feel that if my parents had had more time, if my parents hadn't both been working multiple jobs at times, if they'd had the time that higher class parents have, I think I probably would have received my diagnosis a lot earlier. But there's all of the little things that people don't think about when it comes to time. You know, like for me growing up, my parents were both at work. My mum and dad have gotten home at around the same time. My dad could drive, my mum walked everywhere or got the bus. So my mum's walked home and, oh crap, we've got a family of 5, we need to go and get groceries. But only dad can drive, so that means both of them in the car, all the kids in the car, we've all got to go to Morrison's and do the whole shop and bring it all back. And that's taken 2-3 hours. That's the night over. There's no like family time and fun games. We're cooking, tea, eating and going to bed because we've had to do all that. Whereas for a higher class family, it may well have been that their mum drives home from work, pops into Lidl and grabs the bits for tea, gets home at 5, has tea on the table. You know, there's more time there in which they can notice, oh, my kid's struggling, my kid does this, my kid's doing this. There's more time there for them to be able to fight against doctors and to argue with doctors. Because my mum did bring up to doctors that she thought there was something going on with me as a kid, and she just got told, no, there isn't. You know, and she didn't have the time and the mental energy and the physical energy to argue against that. She had to just take the word and be like, oh, well, I'm up at 6 tomorrow to go to work and do this with the kids and get this sorted and get this done and get this sorted. You know, there's a million and one things to it. But outside of this, and this is the bit I'm nervous about, because like I say, I'm not educated, I'm not knowledgeable, these are just, I think. But I think that one thing that's really not discussed in the autism community that I would appreciate seeing discussed more is that, especially as you get older, the position that you're in and the life that you have as an autistic person does, in my experience, vary greatly based on who your parents are and what class you grew up in and what your parents are like. Because even when looking for support, the NHS website, the first thing they suggest for support for autistic adults is ask friends and family. And it's like, well, I don't have friends, I'm autistic and I don't leave my house. My family's working. My family are all working class people. They've got jobs, and when they get home from their jobs, they're tired. They're not going to go to the supermarket for me. They're exhausted. You know, I don't have the people there to be like, oh, I'm autistic. Can you do this for me, please? No, they've got to be on work at 6. They've got to do this. They've got to do that. They've got people to look after, you know, kids to look after. You know, they don't have time out of their day to then also cater to me, which is fine and understandable. But also, we're a part of a higher class family. The chances are most of my family would have more time to be able to cater and accommodate to me and try and help me out. And for me, I've felt quite a lot of disconnect at times from other people in the autism community who don't seem to understand that I can't just ask my parents for this. I can't just ask my uncle to do this or my cousin to do this. I don't have the people there. You know, and a lot of other autistic people, through no fault of their own, you know, we all grow up with our own lives and our own experiences, and that's what we assume for a long time, at least, until you learn otherwise. That's how we assume everyone grows up. I get it, you know, this is not to crap on anyone or make anyone feel stupid or make anyone feel bad. But, you know, like when I've said on Twitter, like, I do not have the energy to cook a meal tonight, I don't have the money to order in, I haven't eaten yet today, and people are like, oh, can't you get one of your parents or like a family member to drop something around for you? No, I can't, they're in work. Even if they're not in work, chances are they don't have the money to like pop off and buy me food and bring it to our house. And it's frustrating that it's not understood. That's not something everyone can do. That's not something all of us have access to. That's not an accommodation all of us have the ability to be provided. For me, that comes through with so much support, because so much support you access, you also have to phone up and be like, I'm an autistic adult and I need you to do this. And I can't do that. I can't do phones. I just can't. And so many people's next suggestion is, oh, we'll get someone to ring for you. And it's like, who? Who am I getting to phone? Like, this place opens at 9 AM and closes at 5. I don't know a single person that finishes work before 6. Who am I getting to phone for me? Who's doing it? You know? How am I accessing the support when I don't have someone to access the support for me? It's that so often. You know, and it also leads to the situations that we find ourselves living in as autistic adults. You know, for me personally, I moved out of my parents' house at 17 because I could not cope living with my parents anymore. And that means that since 17, I've had basically like constant overlaying anxiety of, I don't know how I'm paying next month's rent. I don't know how I'm going to pay for this. I don't know how this is getting paid for. I have largely lived most of my adult life off the good graces of my ex-partner. And now it's like, well, everything's going up in price and we don't have any more money than we usually do. How are we paying rent? How are we paying for this and this and this and this? It's constantly, how are we paying for such and such? And I have no idea. And like I say, I've been relying on my now ex-partner. So without them, the fuck do I do now? I don't have parents I can just move back in with. There's no space. I don't have any family member that's got the space or general emotional ability to have me move in with them. I don't know how to access the services that would find me somewhere to live. Do I go on benefits? Like, I literally have not got a clue. And because I'm in a working class situation, there's also the fact that I'm going to be assumed to be a benefit scrounger if I go on anything. You know, if I had a posher accent and nicer parents, suddenly it's, oh, I just need a little bit of help in this stopgap in my life. But once you're working class, it's all fucking benefit scrounger again, benefit street over here. And it sucks. And I feel so much shame and stigma even considering that I might need to go on to benefits at some point. And that's not very fair and not very good, because they're literally there for people like me that need them. And I've avoided them my entire adult life. I've claimed as little as possible. You know, I think I claimed job seekers for like 3 months. It was a very short period. But even then, actually accessing those services, and bear in mind I was accessing them without knowing I was autistic, they're confusing. They're so confusing. I did not know what paperwork I was filling out half the time. You just get past stuff to sign and you keep signing it. And right now, I apparently owe DWP £155. And I have no idea why, because I never received a payment from them. And yet I owe them money for money I never got. And it's all incredibly confusing. And I don't have anyone that can help me with it. And I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to do, to be honest with you. It's making me incredibly anxious and real fucking depressed. You know, and I'm not special or unique. There'll be, at the minute, probably like thousands, hundreds, there's going to be a lot of fucking people in a very similar position to me. I'm not I'm not trying to say that I'm like the special one for experiencing this while autistic. You know, there's going to be a shit ton of people in the exact same position, both autistic and non-autistic. But it's again the added difficulties of being autistic in a neurotypical world, and everything is so hard all the time, and it feels like a lot of the autistic community just doesn't understand how much more difficult it can be for some of us. You know, and then add in that less working class people are likely to even be diagnosed as autistic if they are, and suddenly there's a big part of our community that's missing or not being listened to when we are there, and it kind of really sucks. Yeah, there's just a lot of added difficulties that should be recognised, that I think it would make a lot easier for like other people in similar positions to me to be recognised through videos like this. I'd love to hear like other people's side of it from people who are in like middle class or high class. Is it high? Fancy families. If you came from a fancy family with lots of money, you know. I'm very much of the opinion that any discussion about class does need to be approached from like as many different areas and backgrounds as possible. But I can only approach it from mine. I'm just me. There's no one else here, you know? But I would love to hear it from different situations and different positions, because I do think that it's one of those where my difficulties aren't extra to other people, they're different. And I think that's how it goes for all of us. You know, it might overall be harder, but mostly it's just different. But you know, like as a working class person, obviously I've got a little soft spot for the working class, and you know, so often we are the underdogs that aren't expected to do well and aren't expected to succeed and so on and so forth. So it's nice when we do well. Yeah, but it should be recognised that it is more difficult for us to do well than people that are coming from different situations and different backgrounds. And again, this isn't something I have the most experience in, you know, like I've known working class people to be the first person in their family to go to university who are neurodivergent, and lots of other different things. You know, your background isn't going to be the thing to stop you from doing what you want. It will just be a thing to have to work past, I guess. I'm not phrasing this overly well, but I hope you understand. You know, I'm not saying that I'm trapped to be forever working class, but it's hard to pull yourself out of a situation when you haven't got any money, you know? And if you can borrow a few grand off your parents or whatever, like that's a good situation to be in. Editing Dana here to add as well. It's obviously also easier if you're neurotypical. You can, you know, like my neurotypical family has a much easier time finding jobs than I do, keeping jobs, being able to get qualifications than I like to be able to get a job. There's a lot of ways in which it's going to be an easier ride, being neurotypical, being a different class, so on and so forth. I don't have anything else to add now. Thank you. Bye. And you know, again, I'm not trying to shit on anyone. Like, I don't agree with this whole, like, oh, well, he borrowed money off his parents to get to where he was. Dude, if my parents had money, I'd be borrowing it too. You know, when Kim K was crying in the ocean because she lost her diamond earring, if my earring cost that much, I'd be crying too, you know? I think most of us, if we found ourselves in these other people's positions, would do very, very much the same things. So I don't intend to shit on anyone for utilising the position that they're in if they have family that have money or whatever, you know. And there's definitely more points. There's definitely people out there that are a lot smarter than me that can definitely make more and better points than I have here, but these are my ones and these are my thoughts and my opinions. And yeah, I mean, that's why I'm doing this. I want this to be a discussion. I want to see what other people think and feel about this, because it's just a load of my thoughts in an echo chamber of my head because I haven't been able to find anyone else talking about it. So it's not as well developed as it should be. And I'd like to hear what you think is the point of this part of the video. I want to hear your comments. And very quickly while we're at the end here, if you've made it this far, I've just hit 1,000 subscribers. There's 1,000 of you. Subscribe to me. It's one of those things, I'm just like, I don't know what to do with this information. That's too many people. What are you doing? That's more people than I went to high school with, like in my entire high school. Like 1,000 people's a lot of people. I know it's not like, I know I'm not PewDiePie, I know it's not like 10 million or whatever, but 1,000 people's a lot of people. Like that wouldn't fit in my house. Like there's more of you than would fit into my entire house if you stood like shoulder to shoulder in every room, which we wouldn't because we're all autistic, but you know, if we did. And yeah, so I wanted to say thank you for subscribing. It's It's so nice to have you here. Like, I know that's what YouTubers say, and I've never wanted to be the same as the other YouTubers, you know. I'm very much trying to like do my own thing and be my own self on here. But like it is very, very odd and unique and special and lovely to have 1,000 people here listening to what I say and replying to things and giving me their thoughts and opinions and being a part of this little community. Like, I do feel like we've built a sort of little sub-genre to the autism community that's like people that are like me. I've found like a little tribe of people that understand me and relate, and I get to relate to you. And this has been going on forever and it's very soppy, but I just, you know, as someone that's been making little YouTube videos since I was 12 years old, that's 13 years now, and suddenly there's 1,000 of you. This is like, you know, I dreamt of it, but I never thought it had come true, and it's really, I think it's only just hitting me because this is the first time I've actually talked about it out loud, because I don't like talking about my followers in real life because I think it's a bit odd. But I think it's only just hit me that, like, that's a big milestone. That's a big milestone that I always wanted to hit and never thought I would. And especially because, like, so many of you talk to me and leave me comments. I very much, like, it's not like when I hit 1,000 on Instagram and I was like, oh, 1,000 people on Instagram follow me. Like, you're all real people. Oh! So, yeah. Thank you, real people, for being here. I very much appreciate it. If you haven't already subscribed, it'd be lovely if you joined us. It is a very nice little community. I really like reading the comments. Like once a month I do go through and answer people. I'm trying to. I do read every comment and I think of little replies in my head and I don't actually reply them because I get anxious, but I'm trying to be better with it. God, that was like 4 minutes of me just being like, thank you for being here. But I just, oh, I do really appreciate it. It's really lovely of you to follow me and listen to me. I don't often feel very listened to in my day-to-day life, so it's quite special. Yeah. I shouldn't be taking this much validation from strangers online, I don't think, but I feel validated and it's thanks to you. So whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you're having a lovely morning, evening, day, afternoon, week, month, year, and I'll see you again in a few days.